Good afternoon. Now today we're going to keep talking about word problems. And specifically, I want to run through a process that you can use to solve word problems reliably. So let's look at the word problem I have written up here. David works for a local law firm. There he earns $26.50 per hour and works 40 hours a week. How much will David earn at the end of the month? You may notice that this has some information that we want to turn into an equation, which is what most word problems are looking for. And perhaps when you've seen this before, you've jumped in and started writing things down and tried to get a solution together. But I want to show you a better way. This way is going to involve 4 steps. These steps are going to be explore, plan, solve, and examine. Now, what do each of these mean? Well, first, exploring the problem is simply looking it over and looking for any important information. What does the problem want you to solve? What information does it give you that might look useful? So, looking at this problem, I see that David earns $26.50 per hour. And I also see that he works 40 hours a week. Okay? Those seem important for an obvious reason. They both involve numbers. Then there's something that's going to be very important as well, and that's what does the problem want me to do with this information? What does it want me to solve? And the quickest way to find this is to look for the question. So take a moment and see if you can spot the question. Alright, if you're like me, you spotted it right at the very end. How much will David earn at the end of the month? So this seems to be our important information. David earns $26.50 an hour. He works 40 hours a week. And the problem wants us to use that information to figure out how much money he will have by the end of the month. Now, we could jump straight in and solve it, but instead I want to stop and come up with a plan. What's my game plan for solving this? I don't want to just start writing things down. I want to come up with a logical way of laying all of this information out so that I can come up with the best solution possible. So let's look at the information. Well, David's making $26.50 per hour and he works 40 hours a week. Right off the bat there, I feel like we have a multiplication equation because I know that if I multiply that $26.50 by 40, I will figure out how much he is making every single week. So I'm going to say $26.50 times 40 equal per week. I also see that what the problem wants us to find out is how much David will earn at the end of the month. So this calls for me to do a little bit of thinking outside of the problem. How would I find out how much he'd make per month? Well, I've just said that if I take $26.50 times 40, I would find out how much he's making per week. And how many weeks are in a month? Well, generally we have 4 weeks in a month. So, knowing that, I would say that in order to get the solution, I would take whatever he earns in a week and multiply it by 4. So again, we're doing multiplication. It would look something like this. $26.50 times 40 times 4. That seems like a pretty good plan. That seems pretty reasonable. The last thing that I want to do is I want to come up with an estimate, a quick idea of what I might come up with for an answer. The way I'm going to do that is to round. If I round 2650 down to 25, that's an easier number for me to work with. And then I multiply that by 40, and then I multiply that by 4. I could do some quick little math here, and then I would say 40 times 4 equals 160 times 25 equals, Mr. Schaefer is going to use a calculator. 25 times 40 times 4. That's some pretty good change right there. So what we're looking at is he would make about $4,000. And if I had stopped and thought about it and rearranged the numbers, I would have seen that 25 times 4 equals 100. 100 times 40 equals 4,000. So if I'd rearranged the numbers slightly, I would have been able to just do the problem in my head. That's just an aside. You don't need to know that or think about that. But it's still a good thing to think about. So I've come up with my plan. I'm going to multiply the number of hours, the amount of money he makes per hour, by the number of hours he works per week, by 4. And I think that my answer is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 4,000. I expect that it will actually be a little bit above 4,000 because, of course, 2650 is more than 25. So I'm going to go back over to our handy dandy calculator, and I think there's actually a way that I could still do it in my head, but I'm not going to think about that right now. And what I come up with is 2650 times 40 times 4 is $4,240. The last step, I'm going to examine my solution. I've solved the problem, but have I? Does it make sense? If I think about it, does it actually make sense? Well, the way that I'm going to look at this is I'm going to go back and look at the plan. Did I follow the plan I came up with? Well, yes, I did. What about that estimate that I made? I estimated that rounding the numbers off, he would make about $4,000. And when I multiplied the actual numbers together, I found that he made $4,240. That lines up really well with the estimate. It's even perfect because it's a little bit higher, which is what you'd expect, because I was multiplying about $1.50 more. So I examine it, and does this make sense? Yes, it makes sense, because the answer is close to the estimate. There we have it. A simple 4-step way that you can break word problems down. You can think about them, you can plan a solution, you can solve it, and then you can go back and check to see if your solution makes sense. So this is our lesson for today. I'll have an assignment with this up on Canvas. Please go check it out. I'm looking forward to your work. Thank you.